Hello. Rightio. I know everyone's. It's great, isn't it? I kind of feel bad stopping people talking, because that's kind of the point, that you guys talk together. But we just have to do a little bit more of some. Strangely, some of us get to stand in front of you, and I always feel this is a bit of a weird thing, because you are could well be up here with whatever you know and your knowledge and your background and your history, whatever it is. We just happen to be up here. But there's just a couple of little things before we knock off this conference. I know, it's so bad, isn't it? So those who weren't here the other day, we're not allowed to call it a festival for funding reasons. But when you call it a conference, no one wants to go. So we have a marketing plan and a funding plan, which is slightly different. Anyway, it's done now, so we were good. We're going to wrap it up. Now, this was supposed to be Reimagining Australia. It was like, but I've actually finally made it to a couple of sessions, and I think you've kind of done it. Like you've actually been in that space. But one thing I was hoping to do right at the end, and I was thinking, when I was going to pop around the tents and try to see a bit of each talk. Well, I saw 10 minutes yesterday of a couple of talks, and I saw a bit more today. But I was going to try and sort of pin it down and get someone else to help me, one of the speakers to help me sort of pin it down. And so I saw nothing. And what I thought, I'm Matthew, by the way. Sorry, this is a little bit of a festival conference we put on. I should have introduced myself. What I thought might be nice is to get someone who's come from a piece of country that's quite different to here, a great storyteller, a person with who has, I think, from my listening and experience of him online, because I didn't see him live. But I felt that he would be a really good person to sort of, in our little corner of Australia, get another person who maybe has a bird's eye view of farming, landscape management, to just maybe say a few words about. How did I frame it, Chris? Like what the pivotal moments or the bits you picked up from talks, and then he was trying to tell me that he's got some other idea. And so I'd like to welcome Chris Henggeler to the stage from up near Kununurra. And I have no idea what he's going to talk about.
I was hoping you'd give me a bit of a lead there. The first impression that I got is, well, shouldn't there be breaks so we can sort of talk and mingle and whatever? And all of a sudden I realised, well, even if there were, there's no way in the world that we could actually catch up on everything that's here. So my strategy was, well, it's like everybody's got a few gems and throwing seeds out there. I'll just go back with a pocket full of seeds, and when I get home, I'm going to look at what I've got. There's a name, follow that up and find out what's going on. So I'm sure everybody is doing that as well. So what I did do, though, is I just wrote down a few gems. So I'll just, if I can read my handwriting, I'll just read some of these little comments. Things that struck me. Hang on, I could try and read what I wrote. One of the words that I heard again and again was relationships, but in particular, someone qualified the word relationship and added patience, tolerance, and respect. Well, that really resonated. Another one was sharing responsibility. Another one was joy and wonder every day. Then I heard the commons coming from Africa that sort of raised a flag, but then again, I saw there was no polarization, there was open discussion. I think that's very important. So obviously people have come from different areas, and I think if we don't agree, there's nothing wrong with that. I think the important thing is that we don't have polarity. And if we can open up discussions and understand that there's just different perspectives, well, yeah, where will it go? So commons would be a great first step, I think. It sounds a lot better than a quarry that anybody can mine from who's got enough money. Another one, R&D done by nature. Nature's been doing R&D for a long, long time. Yeah, that makes sense. Why are we paying for R&D if actually some of that information is actually out there staring us in the face? Another one. The further off the road I am, the further off the road, the braver I am. So yeah, that's probably why I was so brave I don't have a road. But it can get you in hot water, but that's a different one. But I think that the message there is if you feel strongly about something, do it. And I mean, if it's going to get you, you don't want to do it in a way that it's going to antagonize your relationships with your neighbors. Yeah, if you've got a back paddock, start there first. Do it at your pace in a way that you feel comfortable with and where you feel comfortable. But it's a good one. What have we got here? Oh, I like this one. Don't pick on Dad. Yeah, because very often if there's a problem, and that's the way it's done, well, we're going to lose the farm. Dad, that's Dad's fault. I'm going to take that one home. Better questions. I think we need to ask better questions. Are we asking, very often, I think someone said, Einstein, wasn't it? We're getting a perfection of means and a confusion of goals, or frame it differently, we're getting very good at answering the wrong questions. One question that I hope is that I didn't actually hear asked very often today, and it's one that I would like to leave with you, is how did Australia function, or how did Tasmania function for that matter, before the first humans arrived? Maybe do we reference ourselves against that? So how did it function? And if it was healthy, how do we describe health? Another one I really like is occupy the land. Oh, that sounds a lot more practical than occupy Mars or occupy Wall Street or whatever. Facilitate. And I've heard that a lot, but this particular person said, you use truth, honesty, and transparency. Well, that's great. Can someone please pass that on to our politicians? That's a great one. Another one. This farm will never be sold. I like that. The country's missing people. And, well, we can debate that, but I don't think we can't debate the next one. That is, she will miss the cure and she will give us signs if we're watching. I think the country's talking to us, and if we can't speak her language, well, I think it's probably for us to try and learn what she's trying to say than trying to impose our language on the country. Skin in the game. I think that's a very important one, because my experience is there's a huge difference if you're being paid to worry about the land, or if you've actually got your livelihood at stake while you're trying to care for the land. Title, land title. There was talk about land title. It just sparks something in my mind. My family had freehold in Africa. That was taken. My family had freehold in Switzerland. If the government says, well, hang on, we've got to put a highway through there, they'll take it. I don't believe we can own the land. I don't think we can own the land any more than we can own a beautiful day. I think if there's any entitlement, it should be really an entitlement to managerial responsibilities. I don't think any of these privileges come without responsibilities. So I think there's a from what I've heard, there's discussions that are being opened up in that area too. So I think what's landing strips. Dan, is he said something about landing strips. I missed the Dan. Yeah, could you just you've got a good voice. Can you just tell us again what you meant by landing strips? It sounded very, very good.
It's part of the Occupy the Land strategy. Basically, we are deeply colonized. We are removed from our meaningful skill sets, relationships, ability to communicate with the land. And so we need a strategy to re-indigenize ourselves. We need to remember, relearn those functional capacities to listen to and communicate with the land. So this is something we've been working on at the BFA and developing a whole curriculum about, and finding spots and locations where you've got education demonstration sites, working with land trusts, and effectively providing capacities for people who don't want to be part of the corporate system of debt and wage slavery, et cetera, to build those practical skills to be viable, be able to provide a lifestyle for their families on their land. So it's a deeper, longer conversation, but functionally, a part of a systemic solution set is providing that capacity for people to have those skills to be able to provide for themselves and their families. And so those of us who do have these practical skills need to figure out how to replicate that in massive quantity. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Thanks, and thank you, Dan. And I think that ties into another theme that sort of surfaced again and again, and that's nature. Leave it to nature, renaturing, rewilding. I think we've forgotten that we actually are part of nature, and I think that's part of the deal, is actually reconnecting, regrounding, or grounding. One of the solutions would have been a veggie garden at every school. I like that. Yeah, because schools are there to indoctrinate children. Well, why don't we inoculate them with some renaturation? And like it or not, we'll have the cities, and they may change in shape over the next few years. But the reality is, we still have to feed an awful lot of people who can't feed themselves, and it's just not on if they just lose connection totally. Actually, well, they have lost connection. We've got to reconnect, and reconnecting to the land simply by growing your own food and understanding a bit more. I think that's a great start. Yes, I think. Well, those are some of the seeds that are going to be sprouting. In my mind, the next few weeks, and as the wet season goes, and I've got a whole list of names that I want to sort of Google and find out. There's a lot of wonderful ideas. I hope that all of you were able to pick up some of these, some ideas, and got inspired and realize that the tribe is growing, and actually there are actually other subsets of the tribe around. I love it when I come to a place where I realize, hang on, there's like-minded people here, but I only know 4. Wow. That means there's a whole lot there I didn't know about it. And then they start talking about people that I didn't know. So they've got mentors that I don't even know. So it's great. It tells me something's happening.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. So about 18 months ago, I went to this thing called Groundswell in the UK, and I thought it was an interesting event. But way years ago, I used to be a chef, and you meet really great home cooks, and they go, oh, I love cooking, I should become a chef, right? And I loved going to Groundswell. I only went to one day of this event. It went for 2 days in the UK. And if you love going to see people speak, don't run a festival, is what I've learned. But it was born out of this original, very small idea, and I just want to give you a sense of some of how it came about. And I guess one of the things I want to talk about is, like, none of this happens without money. And I've never actually gone out cap in hand and asked for money, right? It's like just seems so against the grain. But we can't do this on the ticket price that you pay. It simply is not possible. I had some help with that, volunteers and people working with us. We went to some of the richest, biggest companies in Australia. We're like, oh, that sounds great. What a great idea. What a great idea you've got, right? And it reminded me of when I was a kid and I went collecting money for the salvos, right? When I was a kid and I was like 9 years old, I went collecting money for the salvos. I went to this suburb in, I don't know if anyone knows Canberra, it's a suburb called Chapman. And Chapman has a lot of big houses with long driveways with columns, right? And just below Chapman is, I think it's Fisher. And Fisher has a lot of government housing, right? And I got to do Chapman and Fisher. And I went not all the way up the long driveways, very steep, and I knocked on the big doors with the big brass knobs, and these very wealthy people said, good on you, mate. No. And the reason why and then I went down to Fisher and I knocked on these houses where, you know, they obviously don't have a lot of coin, and that people would go, oh God, your salvos, yeah, I'm going to find some money for you. The reason I'm telling you that is because thankful for farmers, right, is two people with no money. And they're our best sponsor. And I feel shameful taking their money to run this event, but we couldn't do it without them, right? So I just say that because the work they do is about, you know, trying to not waste the efforts of you guys. They're working in the waste streams. They're working with the new gap year and all these sort of beautiful things that they do. There's a couple of other sponsors I'm going to mention. You know, Stone and Wood was amazing. You know, product and some coin. I hope you really loved the beer. They had also a lot of you, you know, didn't get your first melanoma because they provided hats and stuff. You know, so they were an absolute gem to have on board. We've got Nutrisoil here, who are like all about World Soil Day. You know, I'm wearing the T-shirt. You know, that's the sort of stuff. Sustainable Table, I think they were the first people to come on board and actually fly Angela in from New Zealand. So there's those little connections, personal connections going again. And we've got lots of other sponsors, and some were financial, and lots weren't. But I want to actually just really quickly, is there anyone from our advisory panel here today? I can see Fran, you got to come up here. Come on. Look, yeah, come on. Just really briefly, you have to. Sam, fantastic, right? Ellie, so you would have seen Ellie in the soil tent. Actually, while you're coming up, I just want to really briefly mention you would have had Laura and Ellie and Emma, Kate, Kirsten filling in the soil tent. There was Kylie Magna. Have I got them all? I think I'm Terry McCosker, who I got this message at 8:30 at night in the cocktail party when James and Helen were giving a speech, and the message was, they're not going to make it. But they still made it for half the day. Come on up, please, honestly. Whoever was on the advisory panel. Kirsten's here. Ollie, Ollie be in the car park, I can tell you that. Oh, he's here. Great. Matt Tack, Will, Celia. This is super cool. They're all here. I know Niall had to leave, who was doing the thing. Josh. There's a couple of people who couldn't even make it to Tassie. The reason I'm showing you this is, right, these are the people who who very kindly offered their advice back in about March, and every month would meet and they would help put personal connections. Sometimes, there was a little bit of financial help from Sustainable Table through the personal connections. But these people helped to put it together, right? This festival has one paid staff member, and they have not been paid for 4 months. And it's not me, right? There will be people paid after this. But I want you to know this is like an amazing event. We had 25, 30 volunteers come together. There is a team out there. And I've described it just recently. I was trying to work out what this felt like. It felt like putting a massive rock up the hill, and all these people were behind me, pushing me, going, "Great, you can do it, you can do it." And if you want something done, get the busy people, right? These people all are incredibly busy with their own lives, and they were all at various times right behind me. And just as I thought the rock was going to roll back over me, they were there behind me, right? And then 2 days ago, Tuesday, at about 5 p.m, when the first people showed up to the cocktail party an hour early, love it, country people. That rock got to the top of the hill and we watched it roll. And this group of people, some of them on the ground, most of them on the ground here on site, and that incredible team of volunteers put together by Fran, who has dengue fever, who flew in from New Zealand last week, Tuesday. She had dengue fever on Saturday, apparently. Ollie, who's been running, you might have seen him running around. I just want you to appreciate the effort that goes into something like this. This entire festival was run on goodwill and community. Okay, so I'm not going to shame you all anymore, but thank you very much for coming up. But thank you. Now we haven't got anything else. Go. No. They haven't given me a microphone all bloody weekend. I just want to do one little last thing before we say goodbye. The idea for this was like, how can we get some people to hang around together? And we used to run this little restaurant. I talked about it. Anyone who's there the other night, but I'll mention it again. We used to run this restaurant, and people would come to the restaurant and they'd eat food, and we were like looking at, is the radish the right size? How has we salted the pork properly? You know, how is there? Well, yeah, everything about the meal. And people are eating, and we'd watch them eat and chat and carry on, and we realised that actually we've just given them this moment where they can come and sit at a table and break bread and build culture. And we realised that after a few years running this restaurant, and I've now realised that what we did here is the same. There were 63 speakers, right? It's supposed to be 40, right? I don't know how I'm not very good at spreadsheets. Matt Tack, the treasurer. So the idea that we have, we could get all this stuff together, to get all these people together, and throw people. I was just in the shed with James Rebanks and Jason Smith from just up the road, two people who've never met each other really, and hoping that magic happens, right? So what we do is we put these little things together, people on stage maybe you've never met before, and that was the excuse for you to come here. And we go, there's a bit of food and drink and stuff like that. All of that only works because you are active participants. You are the ones who made it happen, right? You're stumped up for a ticket. Well, not all of you, there's a couple of freeloaders, but we were not very good with the tech at checking the tickets, are we? But, But you make it happen. And we were thinking about this, and we got a couple of videos off a couple of the speakers, and they sort of had planted this seed in my head that it's when you're in the line at the shitter that you talk to someone that might be in 10 years, that's the moment you remember, because you then have this connection that you then follow up later, right? The magic doesn't happen necessarily sitting here. It happens in those other little in-between moments. So we tried to provide those moments, but it only works because I sat up on the deck last night. Everyone's having pizza. I'm having a glass of wine and this low light, and I was just watching these myriad conversations happen. And that's the beautiful thing. We have done we paid to get some tents put up and put some gaps, not very many, where you can have food and drink. But hopefully that's the genesis of what the good things that are going to happen. The good things that we hope, the whole point of this one, when we were trying to frame what we want, is we wanted to get people together. There was going to be no zooming in there was people I was speaking to in America and whatever, I'll just zoom in. I was like, no, it's not COVID, man. Like, we need to come together again. We need to have this happen again. And so bringing in people from a long way away allows locals to sort of connect with those people. And so what we're hoping from this is that you feel confidence and you have the skills or maybe the connections to go back to your farm or your landscape or the people you advise tomorrow and help to make change, to make the world better, to make your farm better, to make your life better, to make change. That's our real hope. And the thing that I wanted to leave you with, because we really wanted to leave it on a positive note, and we think about this the other day, was that I was actually chatting to a woman who works for Mobile, right? Just lives up the road, does this wonderful little podcast called the Avant Gardeners, isn't it? I think it's the name. Maddie, and she was doing this podcast and saying, well, why are you so positive about farming and gardening or whatever? And I was like, well, and it was only like 2 weeks ago, it was 3 weeks ago, because farming is the ultimate optimistic act. Despite all the mental health issues, a lot of which we fix by coming together, despite the challenges, despite the uncertainty, despite dealing with the most complex systems, like soil biology, which I'm not sure if you all followed some of those talks. It's pretty complicated. Then you got weather, which we don't, it's so complicated, right? And so, we're dealing with complex systems, but the very act of planting a seed, the very act of breeding animal, means you believe in a good tomorrow. You believe in tomorrow, and that's optimism. And so when I think of farming and growing food, I see it as the ultimate optimistic act, despite all the other bits that might come along with it. And so I want to send you away with that thought that what you do has inherent value. That yes, we get blamed for everything, for soil degradation and climate change or whatever it might be. But what you're doing is the utter essence of what humanity needs. You feed them, you clothe them, and you can repair some of the damage that's been done or improve landscapes that have been degraded in the process. And you should never forget that. And maybe that's one of the little messages that maybe you can take away. Thank you. And I've got to tell you how to get out of here, don't I, Ollie? Have I got to give him instructions on how to get out of here?
Hi. Logistics. More logistics. I'm all about logistics. Apparently there's been a big accident on the way to the airport. I don't know exactly where, but have many people got flights to get to tonight? Oh, good. Well, that doesn't matter then. This is a bit awkward. How do I... Yeah.
So the site is going to close in a minute. That's all we've got for you. We're going to send you down. You're actually going to take a little shortcut back. So past the hay shed if you went to one of the workshops and head out that way. If you need to go to the restaurant, you can, but that's all stopped serving and stuff, serving food and drink now. But from all of us, from the team on the farm, from Sadie, who's here somewhere. Can I just... just a tiny bit. Thank you, Sadie, for allowing my madness to prevail for the moment till tomorrow. We've already done a site visit in Victoria and WA, so we don't think this will be the last Grounded. Thank you.
Okay, no more awkward traffic reports. I just want, before we go, to say a massive thank you to this man, the genius behind Grounded.